here we go. We are live streaming on the internet. Hot dog. Okay, let me enjoy all of my people today. Where is that little ticker? Isn't that crazy? Not everybody's in. Here we go. Too many buttons to push. I get it why people have multiple screens when they're working on the internet. Hi, everybody. You didn't need to hear all my backstage technology talk. Welcome to Tuesday Training for Practitioners. It's officially our second Tuesday for the year that we have been meeting like this, which I love. Gary's on screen today.
Oh, Gary's face with the name. He's a real person. Yay. Hey, Cheryl.
Hey, Cheryl. Great to see everybody. Hi, welcome to Tuesday Training. I'm excited to talk to you guys today. I had fun with you last week, vision questing our way into the new year. There's so many things I want to talk about. It was a little puzzle for me to figure out what topic we were going to actually cover. And so for today, and because I also didn't get any special requests. When I get special requests from you guys, I'm delighted to fill in exactly what you want to know about. But on my own today, I got to pick, and I chose something that is pretty universal for manual and movement practitioners. And one of those things where like I want it to be obvious to everyone. And recently, like in this week, the beginning week of the year and the beginning week of the new quarter, I'm meeting with my mastery practitioners on what we call intensives, which is just a different structure of training where we're making sure that they've got the material and they're explaining it to me and they're really utilizing it. And Lori's nodding. She went through an intensive couple actually in her career path. And this one topic came up. And with each of the practitioners who, by the way, did amazing in their intensives, there was always a little more I could add on this particular topic. And I was like, oh, there it is. I want it to be obvious to everyone. And even in my year-long mastery track, there's a room for me to fill in. So I get to fill in. So that's why I chose what I chose for today. We're going to talk about types of tightness and what to do about them. And so that's what's on the docket for today. I would love for you to come and, participate. I'm going to hot seat a couple of you and ask some fun questions and all the good stuff. So thank you for those of you who are here. It's not too late to disappear. No, I'm just kidding. Stay because it'll be fun. I won't make anybody feel uncomfortable, but we are going to talk it out as a group. And if you're just joining us for the first time, welcome. If you're watching on the replay, everybody that I see here on camera today has been with me on Tuesday trainings more than a few times, which overjoys and delights me. And if you're watching for the first time on the replay, welcome to you also. We're happy to have you here. And if you're just watching for the millionth time on the replay, also happy to have you here. I love when you guys like the video as you've been watching it on the replay. It not only lets me know you were here so that I can, I don't actually know who the likes are because YouTube doesn't divulge that information, but it lets me know that people are here and consuming the information and there's value. And it also does let YouTube know to let other people know that the video is available because it is a public video. So all that to say, thank you for liking when you're on YouTube and watching. And thank you for being here live with me when you're able to and joining me over Zoom. If we've never met before, I'm Gina Schatz, the developer of the Schatz method. I've been a movement and manual practitioner for 3 decades now. It's my 31st year. It feels a little weird. Thank you, Gary. It feels a little weird, actually, that I'm going to bring that back up in March when it's actually 31 years. I just heard something this morning in my morning. I always listen to something in the morning to learn something new. And in that conversation, they were talking about how many years it's been since XYZ. And I thought, yeah, I wonder how many years it's been. And as I was brushing my teeth going, oh, it's been a minute. It's been 31, but that's okay. 31 nets to a 4, which is a very grounded number. So I am here to be grounded to support you all year long. That's my mission. And Tuesday training is an open forum for all movement and manual practitioners to come and learn something that would support them in the work that you do in the field. So that's why we're here. That's who I am. And I'm running the ship for today. So welcome. I'm so excited to see you all here. Does anybody have, oh, and here's Rhonda. Nice to have Rhonda back too. Does anyone have any questions out of the gate? Anything that you came with? I have not been asking for Q&A in the forefront of our meeting, and I want to make sure I leave space for that. Did anyone come with a question today? Cheryl, maybe?
I'm glad we're going over types of pain again. I feel like
Okay.
I could hear that and hear that and hear that. And it'll click intuitively.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
2024. It'll click intuitively.
Yeah.
Is it pain or tightness?
I'm sorry, tightness. What are we talking about? Tightness or pain?
Yeah, we call it tightness, but it does create symptoms of pain. And so the
Okay.
pain is tempting to go after to remedy
Mhm.
it. And then we feel that things are tight. And then we end up, you know, honestly, we end up doing the wrong thing because not all
Right.
tightness needs the same thing to resolve the pain symptoms that come with it.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah,
So
great
tightness.
clarifying question. Yeah. Cheryl. Hey, Rhonda, welcome. I had you both in my mind at the same time. Cheryl, you got a question?
Well, my question is more pertaining to the programs that you offer, and that might be a different conversation. Like what level you jump into, where's the best place, what does that allow you to practice when you get through the program? Is there certification? You know, I just have questions like that I'm curious about, like the CEUs and, but that, like I said, might be a conversation that maybe you and I can have at a different time. I don't know if that's what we want to talk about today, but I do have questions. I have questions about that.
Awesome. I appreciate the question. Happy to answer. Lori, were you going to say something?
I was just going to say if I could throw your calendar link in the chat, the 30.
Sure.
Yeah, you want to do that? Okay,
Yep,
I'll do that.
So I'll address some of it now, Cheryl, because I do want you to have that clarity, and I appreciate you asking the question. I tend to, when we're in Tuesday training, not bring up a lot of that. I mean, I drop hints, obviously, that like I have this course. If you need this information, come get it. But I don't want you guys to ever feel that I'm sales pitching to you on Tuesday. I'm really here to support you for sure. And if support means you want more information and you want to know where to get it, that's supporting you. So I absolutely am happy to answer your question directly. I'm not meaning to be covert in any way and hold back. It's just sometimes people misunderstand, you know, what our intentions are. So thank you, Lori, for putting the calendar link in the chat. Anybody's welcome to join me on my calendar at any time that works for you. It's a complimentary 30-minute spot, and at any time, I'm happy to talk to you. And to answer your question directly, Cheryl, think about it mainly as two different tracks. That it is a lot of information that I have to offer, and the feedback that I have gotten is like it's a little overwhelming because we don't know where to start. So if I can break it down for you like this, it might help. There's two different main bodies of information. One of them is in an academy where you can access it on your own at your own time. They're pre-recorded from live sessions though, so it's not overproduced and sort of boring. You actually like listen to other people talk like this, like watching a replay. And there are CEs available that go with that, and I'm happy to go over the details of that. The other track is the Mastery Practitioner track, and that's a year-long training, and it's live with me. And we meet once a week as a group. We all start at the same time and we all end at the same time. In that track, what you're learning primarily is the shots method. So the method that I developed clinically that you can also use in your treatment setting, whether you are a movement or a manual practitioner. And there is, in honesty, there's several years of information that I cram into 12 months. Because if I was going to be honest and tell people, oh, I'm going to give you my 31 years of expertise, and here's how much time it's going to take you, no one would enroll because nobody wants to come for 5 or 6 years. It's just like, be honest. So it's a fast track is the point. I mean, you're drinking from a fire hose, but the end of it is that you become a really top tier expert in what you do, specifically to address orthopedic and functional restrictions and remedy them. And in order to do that, all of the material from the academy, the foundational anatomy, is really important. What daytime does this anatomy talk happen? The anatomy talk from the link in the chat, Rhonda? Yeah, it's a calendar, so you find whatever day and time works for you. If you followed the link that's in the chat, it goes to my calendar, and all the open spots on my calendar that are available will pop up for you, and you pick what time you want to talk. So Let's Talk Anatomy is that. Yep. So going back to the academy, Cheryl, there is over 250, I think, CEs available in the academy where you can log on, take a course if you want to, a la carte. get your CEs, take your quizzes or take your quizzes first, then get your CEs and carry on with your life. You can take one, you can take them all, you can take them in certain arrangements, if you will. And it looks like this. Everything that's in the academy is foundational anatomy that I know practitioners need to be able to A, create results, and B, follow along in my method. So the anatomy that I taught originally was for practitioners who had come into the program to learn my method, and they didn't have enough anatomy, and I needed to back it up a little bit to get them on track to be able to do the method. So I was like, well, let me just give you a course. Let me just make sure that you can watch it and rewatch it if you need to and get all caught up. And another piece of the anatomy in the academy was for yoga teachers who were in training, because they also don't have enough anatomy. And I was asked to teach them anatomy. And it was a very specific curriculum that I got to follow. And I was like, wow, interesting. They really need more anatomy. Like, legit. They want to be good. They want to listen to people in pain and get them out of pain and do really great at their craft. And they don't have enough anatomy to be able to solve that problem. So let me create foundational anatomy for both manual and movement practitioners. And then, of course, as we evolve, things get more complicated. And so then there's more complex courses as well. So inside the academy, where there's 250, I think, I got to double check that number, but I know it's over 200. Let's call it 250 for now. There's 250 CEs divided over, I think, 20 different courses. Again, I should probably be better at these numbers, but it's a hardy number. Okay. If you were to divide those 20 courses, let's say, into 2 different tracks, it would be foundational anatomy that I think is essential for all manual and movement practitioners to have. And we really don't have enough. We just really don't. And if we think that we do after we graduate, we're being foolish, because it's just not true. There's no massage therapy or yoga training or personal training course that can teach you all the anatomy you need to know. There just really isn't. So those anatomy courses that I offer are the fill-ins for that. Like everything you probably had when you graduated with your license certification or whatever it was that you created as credentials. And then what I think you needed to know after that, all those courses are in there.
Okay.
And then there's another set of courses that are a little bit more complex and a little more detail oriented. And Lori's, I see making about a bunch of gestures as I'm talking, because she's been through every single one of those courses probably twice, and through the Mastery Practitioner track twice, actually. So she's a great reference to talk to about what it's like to be on the learning side of the fence. I'm on the teaching side of it. Lori, can I put you on the spot and ask you to weigh in here on what you heard and what you know somebody else might want to know?
Yeah, I mean, everybody's different, right? I mean, what shifted for me is that I took in person with you and I took the academy work where it was just one-off. And what shifted for me in my practice and where I'm at now is one-on-one. Is like being on, we call it the hot seat, right? Like, Cheryl, I think you've been on the hot seat before, right? On Tuesday training. Mm-hmm. It's that, like that for me moves the needle. Like me watching videos, yep, I get to do that. And there's a certain value in that, but like being with a group of people, you know, that are all going through the same thing and talking about it and getting it, like figuring it out and strategically thinking, that's next level. So it kind of just depends on what you're looking for, like where you want to grow, where you want to go.
That's a good question. Yeah. Where do you want to grow?
You know, Cheryl, I'm super excited.
So that was a ton of information sort of tossed your way. Cheryl, did that answer your questions? Did it create clarity or more questions?
Yes, and I'll explore your website a little bit more too.
Okay, great. And let us know if we can support you. My experience with the website and also the feedback I've gotten is it's much easier to navigate if you do it with somebody. And if you trust me that I'm not here to sell to you, I'm only here to support you, I can walk you through it. And if you have specific questions, I can tell you what course would answer those questions for you. And also just if you, oh, thanks, Lori. She's put her contact information there too.
Thank you.
Also, if you aren't really sure, you know something's coming for you, you know there's something more, but you're not exactly sure what that is, that's a great time to get on my calendar, because I have a way of being really able to parse out for practitioners if this is the right place for you or what else I'm hearing you say that you should go explore that. Because I say this openly all the time. if this program, if my mastery track program, for example, the year-long program, if it's not right for you, I don't want you there. I really don't. I don't need you to be dragged through it. I don't want to drag anybody through it. It's already enough work. In the best possible way, you will be transformed at the end of it. And if you're not ready for that or interested or hungry for it, it's just not the right place for you, but something else probably is. So I have no interest in, sort of manipulating people into being in a certain place, quite the opposite. So if there's something more for you and you just want to explore together as colleagues, jump on my calendar and we'll talk it out and I'll help you find out what I'm hearing you say. And it would matter to me, like what work you're currently doing, what results you're getting, what you're frustrated with, what results you want to be getting. And I can really support you there in finding out the answer.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Any other questions for now?
No.
No? Okay,
Not for
awesome.
me.
Lori, why are you laughing? Why did that?
Yeah, because it is like a fire hose, like going through it, like having you, Cheryl, Gina did that with me when I did this next level training with her. I'm like, this is where I think I want to go. And this is where I think I to get there is that. And she's like, okay. And we crafted it a little bit differently. And I'm like, oh, that's what I needed. I thought my path was here, but it was actually here to get to there.
Yeah.
Sometimes when we're in it, we can't quite, it gets a little muddy. That's why I'm laughing.
Yeah, because it literally just happened to you. Yeah.
Because it literally just happened. And it can get real big.
Yeah.
Big.
Yeah, I love being able to support practitioners there where they start to like their brain just spins. One of our advocates calls it a yarn ball. It starts to feel like a yarn ball. There's too much information. I don't really know what to do with it. That's where I shine. I mean, I love being able to go, hey, grab this thread and here we go. And right. And just make it really clear. So yeah, if that feels like that would be supportive to you, please let me support you in that. I love doing that for folks. Rhonda, I hear you. I see you talking, but I can't hear you.
I have a question.
Sure.
You hear me now? Okay.
I totally hear you.
Massage therapists need to do a certain amount of live CEs and only a small amount of online CEs. So I'm assuming that your academy that's online doesn't have any live CEs. Is that correct?
Correct. They're all pre-recorded.
Okay. So all the ones that we would get on your calendar would be live CEs or not necessarily?
So getting on my calendar is just an invitation to have coffee with me. There's no CEs involved in that.
Okay. So do you offer live CEs?
I haven't in a bit, actually. That's interesting. What state are you in, Rhonda, that still makes it required only?
Pennsylvania makes you have, I forget, I think it's 16 of your 24 CEs have to be live. Our CPR has to be live.
Sure.
We can't do online training for any of that.
Right. Yeah. Some states don't even require CPR, which is every state's got their different educational barometer. And you have 24 credits every 2 years or every year?
2.
Every 2. Interesting. I wonder what Brittany does. One of our mastery.
I was just thinking that. Yeah, I don't know. I can reach out to her.
Yeah, she's from Pennsylvania, so that's what I was just asking Rhonda. Yeah, no, I haven't done live CEs in a minute. It's been probably since before, well, actually during the pandemic, I did live, but that was online live, which counted at the time. So yeah, no, at this moment, I don't have that, Rhonda.
Okay.
And does your state count live remote, or does it have to be live in person?
I'm not sure they stipulate that.
Yeah, find out, because
I would have to check on that.
Yeah, states changed a bit during the pandemic. I know Yoga Alliance also used to not have any remote training, and then it was only during the pandemic. And then after the pandemic, it was like, well, actually, we can do that. So everybody's changed in the last 3 years. I would double check just to be sure. And you're making me think maybe the mastery, this is an out loud thought, but maybe the mastery track when I'm live, I could get that CE designated. All right, let me give that to do to me. That ta-da, one more thing. You've inspired me, Rhonda. I'm going to find out.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
inspire me.
It's just one inspirational day, isn't it? Okay. Yeah, you find out from your state and I'll find out what the parameters are over here and maybe we'll make magic happen this year. Wouldn't that be fun?
Well, it would expand the number of therapists you could work with to satisfy that requirement. I think it would really be good.
Yeah, well, technically, though, therapists are getting more CEs than they need during the mastery program, but they are all the recorded ones. So I've not had any other practitioner yet until you just brought it up, Rhonda, say that they needed to be live or live and in person. Yeah, we'll find out though. I mean, every state's different, like literally wildly different. So yeah, I used to pretend like I knew and then I stopped keeping track of all 50. All right, I love this Q&A. Any other questions that I can answer you out of the gate? See, I knew I needed to ask today.
Where are you located?
Oh, today I'm in Ohio. Today I'm in Cleveland. What's that?
Today you move around completely.
I move around much less now than I used to, but I'm licensed in 3 states and I used to rotate between the 3 quite regularly. So wow. I would say I was where am I located in my car is usually what I would say. But I've been stationary in Cleveland for a bit since the pandemic actually. And it's gray and rainy here, which makes me want to leave, but that's okay. Where are you, Cheryl?
We come to LA right now, currently. Oh. But I go between LA and Montana.
Oh, I love those 2 options. What a great, where in LA? I spent a couple years in LA.
In Pasadena.
Oh, okay, fun. Yeah. Amazing. So it's early in the morning for you when you meet us on Tuesdays.
It is, yeah.
I love it.
Cheryl, I'm in San Clemente.
Okay.
Down the road a piece.
Yeah, not far.
Yeah.
No kidding. I didn't know we had 2 West Coasters in the house. All right. All right, represent. Cool. I love it. Okay, any other questions? That was sort of fun. Anybody else? All right, you guys want to talk about muscle tightness?
Yes.
And what to do about it? Okay, great. Here we go. There's 4 types. Only one of which requires that we release or stretch it. So for those of you who are manual therapists and you like to go deep, when you feel tightness in someone's body, with my love and respect for you, you are not helping 75% of the time. For you movement people in the room who like to stretch people or have them do long hold stretches when they have muscle tightness, with the same love and respect, you're only helping 25% of the time. 75% of the time, a tight muscle does not need to be stretched or released. In fact, quite the opposite. So, dun dun dun, started out heavy, but here, let me qualify that. And it's really so significant, and it can change so much about what you do when you work clinically, that you can make the difference between having someone feel good while they're with you and then not feeling good an hour later, and having someone feel good when they're with you and feeling better an hour later. It's literally the difference, knowing tightness in muscles. So for that reason, I want you to know this, and I want it to be just like I shared with you. I want it for you, and I want it for my mastery practitioners and everybody else. Anybody want to gander? Lori, go last. Anybody want to gander at the 4 types of tightness? Gary's like, nope.
Is one of them like the tensile stress?
Tensile is one of them. Yep. Very good. And we'll talk about what each of them are and then what to do for them. Let's just get the names of them out here. The names and the types. Anybody else want to guess?
I'll look back at my notes. I should have it.
You may have some of them in there, yeah. I think we did do muscle tightness maybe a year and a half ago. Have you been with us that long, Cheryl, on Tuesdays? Over a year?
No. I haven't.
Did we do all 4 muscle tightness with you, or are you talking about what we talked about in the case study when we talked about the
I think it was more with the case study, yeah.
Okay.
But I know we talked about a few of them.
Okay, great. So there'll be new information here too today. It won't be all review.
Mhm.
You got another one?
I'm looking. Anybody else?
I have it in my notes.
What do you got, Rhonda?
I have contractile tension, tensile stress, trigger tension, atrophy tension.
Okay, super close. It's rather than trigger, it's turgor. 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 So we don't want to confuse it for like trigger point pain. So yeah, the 4 types, and I give them in this order only because it helps in the learning, not because they only come in this order, but contractile. So, and we'd call it tension or tightness, contractile tightness, tensile tightness. And you've probably heard me say tensile stress before because the muscle is under duress or stressed. And then turgor, Turgor. I feel like that might be an antiquated term because a whole lot of people don't know the name of it. But it was one of the terms that I learned super fresh out of the gate as a massage therapist 31 years ago. Again, that could be antiquated, but I just felt like it was one of those, you need to know these, kind of like let it be an obvious term for you back in my learning moments. So, you know, kind of like ox, coxa, and innominate. If one is what the cool kids currently say versus what the old gals used to know, just go with me on it and let's call it turgor. And then the
Do
4th
have it.
one, what's that,
the
Cheryl?
fourth?
Oh, no, I just found my list of them. So I had all 4 of them there
Okay,
in my
perfect.
notes.
Okay, perfect. What's the 4th one, Gary wants to know?
Atrophy?
Atrophy.
Oh,
I mean, that's what I have here, but did you say it was called something else?
Nope, it's atrophy.
Nope,
Atrophy is
okay.
the 4th one.
wow.
Yep. Okay, so those are the 4, and those are the order that I teach them in for a couple of reasons. Which one of the 4? Well, let's see. Let's talk about what they are first before I start quizzing you on what to do. So contractile, I'm hoping, sounds like to you what the word means. Yeah, exactly. Exactly, Cheryl. It's when the origin and insertion are towards each other like a contraction, but the fibers are held in that position. And if you right away went to, well, how are they held in that position? What caused that? I love that question because that's part of strategic thinking. And we're going to explore that today before we go.
They are or they are not
Are or are not
pulled
what?
toward each other, held toward each other.
They are.
They are. Okay.
Just like in a contraction. Yep. So do you guys know the mechanics of how a muscle contracts?
Muscle spindles are involved here.
Yes, for sure. Do you know what they
Um,
do, Gary? In a contraction?
No, not the function.
Okay, that's all right. You're a manual therapist, Gary?
Mhm.
Yeah, see, most of us as manual practitioners don't have this information. We know anatomy, but we don't know functional anatomy. We weren't taught that. It's not part of our gig. And in order to resolve pain, we need to know how the body's designed and return it there. And we need to know how the body is designed to move and train it there. And if the absence of one or both of those is present for you, then your people won't leave pain-free. Doesn't mean you need to become a movement practitioner. It means you need to know how muscles contract when they move. That's the point. Anybody else want to pick up where Gary brought us to on contraction? How does a muscle contract?
The fibers slide over each other, kind of like 2 paths, as far as I know. And I think ATP is involved, but I forget if that's for the contraction or the release.
It's true, Rhonda. There is a whole chemical cocktail going on in there, and I will not pretend to tell you what it is over the top of my head because I learned it and I know that it's there and I don't use it. So again, just going back to what we said earlier, Cheryl, the anatomy that I teach is only what's applicable. If you can't use it like in this moment in your office, I've wasted your time. Doesn't mean it's a waste of time to learn that. You need to know that. But most of us came with some type of chemistry or biology in our hopefully in our background. And that's great because you start to learn how fascinating the body is. And all of the anatomy that I teach is applicable. Like, this is what you need to know to be able to do what you're doing, and this is how to apply it. So anything else on contraction? Because I can't tell you the chemical cocktail, Rhonda, but you're right, there is one in there. Anything else about contraction that you want to bring up?
I have in my notes that our nervous system tells our body to do something. Like it
For
starts
sure.
with, yeah, it starts there. And then we're in contraction, like the action is contraction.
Mm-hmm.
And that also.
Yep, all movement and function in the body comes from the brain. The body and the brain are not separate. Newsflash, they're actually connected. And I'd like to say that because there was a point in time 31 years ago where people were like, what do you mean mind-body connection? That's ridiculous. Or how is it ridiculous if my brain is literally inside my body and part of my body? How is that? How is that ridiculous? And so here we are all these years later, and we all got the memo. So great. So the nervous system is wildly involved, and that matters when you're navigating pain with folks, right? Because their nervous system is involved. So it can feel like a dramatic response to whatever you're doing if you're forgetting that you're also intermixing with their nervous system and what their nervous system has to say about the matter. That's a big part of what we talk about when we get down the pain path. The other thing about contraction that I want you guys to remember is that it's the attachments of the muscles that are moving towards each other that allow the spindles to overlap on top of each other. And as you were mentioning, Rhonda, they slide over each other. I like to describe it like a deck of cards, you know, where you split the deck and then and then just before you push them all back together again, there's sort of that mound in the middle where the deck of cards gets bigger. That's like when you contract your muscle and you see the, you know, well, maybe not on my biceps today, but that's where you see, you know, the belly of the muscle raise, like the deck of the cards raising. And how that happens, in addition to the chemical cocktail that's going on, is that the attachment points where the muscles attach to the bone move towards each other, and the spindles in the middle start to overlap, and that's why it looks bulkier in the middle.
That is a beautiful description.
Oh, I'm glad that was.
And easy to remember and easy to explain to your clients, this is what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And they can relate to that. That's great.
I love it, Gary. I'm so glad that works for you. That's how I like to teach. It's got to make sense. I like good pictures. I like a good story. Yeah, and it's the insertion that moves towards the origin. That tends to trip people up a little bit when we get into, well, which side is moving and what side isn't. There is some specificity there. And for today's conversation around tightness, let's just stick with attachments. It's the attachments moving towards each other. Okay. So, hey, Anna. So this leads us to know then out of the gate, when it comes to muscles and muscle tightness, in order for us to identify a muscle that's presenting with any type of tightness, we got to know what the muscle is, and we need to know where it attaches. I'm not suggesting that you need to know the bony landmark of every single attachment point on every muscle, although massage therapists, depending on what state you were trained in, you needed to know that before your state boards. And then because we don't remember to use them, we forget them. And I don't think the bony landmarks are going to make or break you as a clinician, but knowing that muscles attach to bone and roughly where their attachments are and the formation of that really matters, because it changes what you know about how they move. At the risk of going down a rabbit hole, I want to just say, for example, in order for a muscle to move a bone, it's got to traverse the joint of the bone it's moving. Otherwise, if a muscle is just attached on a bone and the origin and insertion, the attachment points move towards each other, the muscle would just quiver on the bone. It wouldn't actually create movement. That about attachments, I think, is more important than the name of the bony landmark that the muscle attaches to. Because the name is not going to help me fix the functional problem, but how they attach and understanding that is going to help me fix the functional problem. So again, the anatomy that I like to offer is, how is it applicable to you? Okay. So how do muscles attach to bone, by the way? Little pop quiz.
Tendons.
Tendon.
Tendons, exactly. So it's a tendon that's attaching that muscle to the bone. And at the part of the muscle that is the movable part, the insertion, it traverses the joint that it moves. Okay. And we've talked about joint action and the muscles that do that. We've talked about that a lot. This is that piece of information, anatomy information that's needed. Go ahead, Gary.
Describe the difference then between a ligament and a tendon.
Yeah.
In this case.
Great question. Who knows the answer? Anna?
A ligament. Hi, everyone. Sorry for being late. Client wouldn't leave. Ligament attaches bone to bone.
Huh?
And tendon, Gary, attaches muscle to bone.
Thank you.
Yep, fantastic. Good job, Anna. Yeah, I was going to say, my mastery practitioners, you better have these answers. Or I haven't done my job. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and you can tell, right? You can tell practitioners who've been really steeped in it. So thank you, Anna, for sharing. And the constitution of tendons and ligaments is largely the same. They don't have a lot of blood flow in them. That's why they look gray on a muscle chart. We don't want them to change. You don't want the structure that's holding your bones together to change like the wind or tendons to respond like the weather. You want them to be sort of sturdy and holding things together. But muscles are very changeable. Hence the way that they can respond and become tight and then need our intervention. So contractile stress is when a muscle is in contraction and held in that state. Okay. How would that affect the lever system? I know everybody here has talked with me for many moments now about the lever system. How would a muscle held in contraction affect the lever system?
It would restrict the movement.
Yeah. In what way, Rhonda?
It would block it.
In what way?
Well, if we're talking about a tricep that is in spasm, it would block the bicep and flexion of the elbow.
Yeah. And how would it block the bicep specifically? Great imagery. How would it block the bicep specifically? If the tricep was held in contractile stress, how would it block the bicep?
It wouldn't lengthen in order to allow the bicep to shorten.
There you go. That's it. Because the lever system means that both sides equally lengthen and contract at opposite moments. Both sides have to do that. So if one muscle has an attitude or a need, then other muscles are affected by that. It's a collective game. It's not a one-off. So it's interesting sometimes, right? When we hear our clients talk about their bodies, oh, you know, that one bum such and such, and they'll put a body part in there. Or, oh, you know, I always have that thing with my XYZ, and they'll put a body part in there. And it's interesting how we like to sort of like divide and separate instead of welcome in and remedy. And I'm in the latter camp. Like, let's welcome it all into the ballpark and let's remedy what's going on because everything's connected. And so that information helps us navigate the types of tightness. If we know that a muscle doing XYZ affects another muscle directly, that also informs how to remedy it, right? So if a muscle's in contractile stress and contraction is the action, what does that muscle need to be remedied?
Lengthen the opposing muscle group. Lengthen the antagonist.
Lengthen the antagonist, Gary, or lengthen the muscle that's in contractile?
No, lengthen the antagonist.
How so? How would that resolve it?
Well, if the muscle's in contractile, it can't move because the opposing muscle group is somehow affecting that. So work with the opposing muscle group somehow. I don't know.
Okay. Yep. No, I appreciate the guess. So the somehow part is the part I want to get you clarity on.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't want to just sort of guess and go after it. Because here's the thing. If we lengthen a muscle that doesn't need to be lengthened, we are intercepting the function.
The function of that muscle, you mean?
No, function
other
of the
one.
body,
Oh.
function of the body.
Hmm.
Yep. So everything we've already mentioned, as soon as we started talking about tightness, is about to come in right here, and all the dominoes are going to line up. First things first is that function comes from the nervous system. Okay, we said that we're working with the nervous system first before we're ever working with a particular muscle. We're working with the nervous system when we're navigating pain. And the way the nervous system tells the body to move is through contraction. There is no command in the brain that tells the body to relax or stretch.
Whoa.
Yeah, whoa. Exactly. And so not knowing that bit of information is where I believe practitioners go rogue and start releasing everything that's tight or stretching everything, thinking that they're creating a remedy. And look, touch is amazing and everybody should move, even if it's lengthening. Absolutely, we're designed to move, and touch is healing. But if we're here to remedy problems, functional discrepancies, and pain symptoms, we need to know what that muscle fiber needs to get out of pain and to remedy the functional problem. And stretching isn't it. The nervous system is going to tell the body how to move. It's going to tell the body to contract something. The lengthening of the muscle on the opposite side of the lever system happens in response to the contracting muscle. It doesn't happen as a command outright. So we need to know that, even as manual practitioners, even when your client's passive on the table, we need to know what got in the way of that function being optimal. We get to know what happened when that client of ours went to their movement practice, whether they worked out at home or they worked out in a gym or in a group class somewhere. We need to know what movement is to be able to remedy what happened for them. Doesn't mean we become movement practitioners. We just need to know function. Okay. So sometimes I hear, maybe from a few of my mastery practitioners, I will not name names, but sometimes I do hear them say, oh, I can't do this method because I'm not a movement practitioner. And just as many of them will say, I can't do this method because I'm not a manual practitioner or a movement practitioner, whatever. They're switching it up. It's irrelevant. It's irrelevant. The method is for everybody because we learn how the body functions and how to restore it back to that function. Okay, so this is a great example of that. When a muscle, so let's go back over it then, Gary. Let's pick up where we left off. So this question has an answer embedded in the lever system, which is how the body is designed to move. So if a muscle's contracted on one side of the lever system, just contracted, not contractile stress. But if a muscle is contracted on one side of the lever system, what's happening on the other side of the lever? What's the muscle on the other side of the lever doing? If a muscle on one side of a lever is contracting, what's the muscle opposite it on the lever system doing? Cheryl?
Lengthening.
It's lengthening. Exactly. So what does the muscle that's stuck in contraction need?
I mean, it would need to be lengthened, but we have to figure out how to do that. Exactly.
It needs to be lengthened. Only the muscles that are in contractile stress need you to lengthen them or release them or stretch them. It's the only type of muscle tightness that needs that. It's the only type of the 4. So 25% of the time you're right on task if you're lengthening and stretching and fiber frictioning with your thumbs and all the things that manual people and movement people do. Only 25% of the time, that type of tightness.
Or foam rolling.
Or foam rolling or PNM, absolutely.
Okay.
And then what you brought up, Cheryl, is really important. So that contractile muscle does need to be lengthened. Does it need to be lengthened by itself? Or does it need to be lengthened by having the opposite guy contract? Because if we know the lever system, lengthening happens in response to a muscle contracting. If this muscle contracts, this muscle lengthens. If this muscle is stuck in contraction, this muscle needs to contract to balance out the lever. It can only do that though if this muscle gives up the fight. Okay, let me say it again. You got this, Gary. Take a deep breath. That's good. You got this. Here you go. So straight up lever. It's straight up lever, okay? So were you going to use any two muscles that you want to? You can use bicep and tricep just because it's easy to follow. It's not common, actually, that a tricep would be stuck in contractile stress. It's also not really common that a bicep would be stuck in contractile stress, but it's a really easy lever to use as an example. So just use that in your mind's eye, and then the practicality of it may need to be applied to another body part, another joint action, but just use it for your own learning about the lever and contraction and lengthen, okay? So here's the bicep, and here's the humerus, and here's the bicep on this side and the triceps on this side, okay? Biceps on this side. For the lever to work, we know that the command from the brain is to contract this one, and in response to that contraction, the design of the body lets this one lengthen. You got that? Great. And the same thing would be in reverse. In order for this one to contract, it comes from the brain to tell this body part to contract. And in response to that, this one lengthens. So there's a very equal relationship between these two body parts on this lever, on this design. And all joints in the body are designed on a lever. If this guy's held in contraction, in order for us to restore the lever and the relationship between these two sides, this guy has to lengthen and give up the contracted fight. Otherwise, the action is contraction. That's the only action that lever can take. So he's got to give up the fight. He's got to give up the contractile stress. Not the same as giving up the ability to contract, but when he's held in contraction, he's got to give up the hold. You got that? Okay. So in order to get him to give up the hold, we either get to intervene and make him release, like we do with our thumbs and with other tools like PNF and things like that, or this guy needs to contract over here to restore the response of this muscle in the lever to lengthen. And that's a case by case. That's a case by case. You don't know for sure until you're with the body and the body tells you. Does this muscle need you to intervene and lengthen it? Or does this muscle need you to intervene and contract it? Or both for that lever to be restored? You got to work with it though. But knowing contractile stress lets you know that I do get to do deep work here and release. And it's the only type of tightness that responds to lengthening. Okay. Did you follow that, Gary? Was that better the second time?
Thank you. Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, great. Any questions on contractile stress? You got it? Okay, great.
So let me ask, how common, I don't know if there's an answer to this. When we see clients on our table, how common is contractile stress versus the other three?
Yeah, it's a great question. I would say they all run equal numbers.
Okay.
And the way to determine that means that you have to ask more questions about the function the body was in before they got to your table. Right? So like if you can imagine, what would create contractile stress? It's a little bit rhetorical for this moment. And maybe we'll answer it together. But I want you to just be asking these questions. Like, so contractile stress is a thing. Cool. The strategic thinking that I demand of my mastery practitioners is, how did it get there? And what do I need to do there? Do I need to do anything about how it got there? Because if it's contractile, let's do Groundhog's Day and how I don't work and how I don't want practitioners to work either. If this is contractile and I lengthen it, but I don't know what caused it to be contractile, how do I know that client's not going to recreate it as soon as they leave? Now they're living in Groundhog's Day and I'm living in Groundhog's Day, and they got to come back next week for the same exact treatment. Did the treatment work? Yeah. Did it solve the problem? No. I don't like to work like that. I personally, and I want to create results for people. And life is plenty to introduce new obstacles for the body to navigate. I don't need to keep reinventing the wheel on solving the original one. They're going to come with more stuff. If they're out in the world moving, they're going to create other issues in their body. It's just the nature of being human. It's our responsibility in this vessel. So I don't really want to keep resolving symptoms of a problem over and over again. I want to eradicate the problem. They're going to find other problems in their living in the world. Okay. So that's contractile stress. Go ahead and stretch it, deep tissue it, whatever you want to do for sure. But that's the only type of tightness. The other type of tightness, the second one on the list, is tensile tightness. Tensile tightness. So who can describe to us what's tensile tightness? Anna wants to share, I can tell by the Cheshire grin.
I actually don't, because there's other people here, and it's not fair because we're doing mastery with you. So if we don't have this, we should hide. So
Yes,
So
you do get to have this.
I'm going to let somebody else try and go with it.
Okay, we'll let somebody else go first, and then we can come back to the mastery practitioners. And speaking of Anna, thank you for reminding me. Other folks came in and are not on camera. Hey, Wood, it's great to have you here. Nafia, hello. Pauline, I'm also happy to have you here. Thanks for listening in the background. You guys are welcome to chime in if you want to use the chat, if you're not in a place where you can be on camera or talk out loud, because we all get to participate in finding the answers. Who can describe tensile tightness? Cheryl?
Just from what we've talked about during the case study, the origin and insertion are at their greatest length.
True.
Away from each other, and they can't stretch any further.
Mm-hmm.
So they're fixed in that position.
Absolutely. Perfect. The origin and insertion, which we already talked about, are at their furthest distance away from each other, can't stretch anymore, and it's fixed there. And that's what tensile tightness is. Hey, Haywood, nice to see you. So just given that definition of tensile stress being attachment points of the muscle at their maximum distance away from each other, and they can't stretch any further, can you hear how going in to do deep tissue work or stretching a client presenting with tensile stress that feels tight to you and them, do you hear how detrimental that could be to those fibers?
Big time.
Yeah, you want to dig your elbow into that. I don't care how tight they say they are. I don't care how strong you are as a manual practitioner. You don't want to give them a deeper stretch just because you're great at movement work and you can hold their limbs in a particular position, or do PNF, the magical, muscle releaser of all time. You absolutely want to do all of those things for sure, but not on a tensile stressed muscle. You'll actually create damage. So that's why it's really important to know the different types. Because does a tensile stressed muscle feel the same amount of tightness and irritation in someone's body as a contractile stressed muscle?
I would think so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The only difference, if someone's really listening, is there's like a little temperature difference. It feels a little like irritated, like a hot, but it's not hot. It's not a nerve sensation, but it's like an irritated heat.
So is tensile stress like when somebody has really tight hamstrings all the time, or, they have, they complain of a tight muscle that's always there? Is that more likely to be tensile stress?
It's hard to say, Cheryl, right? So the types of tightness are all real, and we get to find out if we're here to eradicate the problem. We get to find out what caused the tightness. First, we need to know what type of tightness it is and what caused it, and can we remedy what caused it, and then the symptoms of the muscle. So I don't know. Sometimes in hamstrings, it could be all four, depends. And that might be made more clear as we walk through all four of them. But I will say this, a better way to determine if a muscle is under tensile stress, if you can't feel it, if you're a manual practitioner, there's a slight sensory difference between contractile fibers and tensile fibers, only because the tensile fibers feel a little bit more like a tethered rope. And I'm talking like sophisticated palpation skills here. If you're not a manual therapist, this won't even apply to you, so don't worry about it. But if you've been doing manual work for a really long time and you have that sophistication in your palpation, some practitioners do and some don't, and it's not shade. It's just like some people can see behind with eyes in the back of their head and some people can't, right? And there's no eyes in the back of our head. There is a qualitative difference in our palpation of a tensile muscle because it feels, like I said, like a tethered rope, whereas a contractile muscle feels like there's a hard rope that I could move.
Okay.
They still feel ropey because it's still spindle action and it's still tightness in the spindles, but they're just slightly different. Just like the irritation to the client is also slightly different. So when my clients come in and they say, oh my gosh, I have tightness in hamstrings, like your client, Cheryl, right? Oh, my hamstrings are always so tight. Honestly, as soon as they say the word tight, I need more information because that word tight tells me very, very little. It just tells me that this is the area of symptom. It doesn't actually even qualify the type of tightness because they're all equally uncomfortable. Okay, but to answer your question, Cheryl, on how do I know if it's tensile versus contractile if I don't have palpation skills? Tensile stress happens in the body when the origin and insertion is moved away from each other. So the definition is also the function. In a tensile stress muscle, the origin and insertion are at the optimal distance away from each other, and there's no more room to go. And that's typically the position of those joints as well when the muscle became stressed in that position. Do you follow?
Mhm.
Okay.
So can you then look at movement of the joint to determine that?
Exactly. And that's why we need to know movement, even as manual practitioners. Absolutely.
Mhm.
So in the case study, Cheryl, where you said you remembered the conversation on tensile stress, that was a big part of that case study. Great example of alignment, creating tensile stress, and then knowing how the body's designed to be able to peg it. And you don't have to be a manual practitioner to resolve it. Here is the example. In the lumbar spine, we know the alignment of that spine. There's a lordotic curve, not lordosis, but a lordotic curve. Most people sitting, you might be one of them right now, are not sitting with their lordotic curve. Anna just switched hers. I'm not even going to switch mine because it'll give it away that I'm not sitting optimally. Most of us are not sitting optimally with the lordotic curve. So imagine, if you will, that you're in that habitual position and then bearing weight somewhere, like carrying groceries or bending over gardening or having something heavy on your shoulders, like a work bag, and you've got that reverse lordotic curve. Those muscles at that area of your body are in a lengthened position. And now there's weight on them. They can become stressed in a lengthened position. That's tricky.
Mhm.
You'd think that they would just contract, but a muscle can only contract fully if the joints that it attaches to are aligned optimally. And that's universal. That's universal for all movement and manual practitioners to know about the body and how it's designed. So that leads us to tensile stress. And I did not plan it this way, but we are left at a cliffhanger. And this bit of information right here between these two types of tension, tightness, which is the symptom that your client comes in with, these two types of tightness, contractile and tensile, were at the root of that case study we worked on for so long last year, the end of last year. And it's also why we didn't completely resolve that case study. So we didn't quite get to the bottom of these two types of tension and what to do about them. So not intended, but I'm leaving you with a cliffhanger, and we're going to come back to what next week. What does tensile tension need from you to be resolved, whether you are a manual or a movement practitioner? And it's the same way of thinking that we came up with the answer to what is contractile stress in a muscle need from you to be remedied. We talked through that. It needs one of two things very clearly. Okay, same thing with tensile stress. So I'm going to leave you with that again. I think the universe really wants you guys to have this, like really have this on tensile. It's the only way I can understand and explain why this keeps happening on this particular topic. And we're going to start with tensile stress next week and finish the other two that are still left in our queue of 4. Okay, and we'll get through all the types of tightness, what they are, and what to do about them, what you as a practitioner get to do to remedy them. Sound good? Okay, everybody. Thank you so much for your contribution today and for weighing in. It makes it super fun and a great learning environment. So thank you all for your participation and contributing. And thank you for sharing the training with other practitioners that can't be with us live so that they can also get the same, information and support them in the work that they do. I'm really looking forward to next week. It's going to be an amazing year, you guys. I'm so lit up. I can't wait. Like next week can't come fast enough. And we get to pace ourselves as well. So I will see you guys next Tuesday. And in the meantime, thank you for all the incredible work you do in the world.